Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this morning's Beef Brunch Educational Series webinar. My name is Ashley Edwards, and I am an Assistant Extension Agent and Coordinator of Animal Science Programs for the LSU Ag Center. I will be hosting today with the help of Jason Holmes, Livestock Specialist in the Northeast region. Today's speaker is Dr. Ron Strahan. He's an Associate Professor in the LSU School of Plant, Environmental, and Soil Sciences. Dr. Strahan will be discussing managing common pasture weeds. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. We will be muting your microphones. We ask that you please keep them muted throughout the webinar. If you are joining us online via the Teams app or link, please enter your questions into the Q&A box at any time during the presentation. If you are calling in, you may text your questions to me at 512-818-5476. Again, if you are calling in, you can text me your questions throughout the webinar. My number is 512-818-5476. In the interest of time, we will wait to answer questions until the end of the presentation. And with that, Dr. Strahan, I'd like to first thank you for taking the time out of your hectic schedule to be with us this morning. You should be able to get started whenever you are ready.
Hey, Ashley, getting some feedback here. I don't know.
You started to cut out just a little bit now. Go ahead and get started, and I'll let you know if it's messing up.
Okay. Okay, Ashley, we're getting some feedback there. We're still getting some feedback.
It's clear on my end. Jason, are you having any issues?
No, it's clear, Dr. Strahan. I'm not sure why you would be getting feedback on your end.
Well, it was on Ashley's mic. I would hear her say something.
So she just muted herself. Are you still getting feedback?
I am.
Go ahead and start, and
I'll go ahead and start, and I'll. Okay, I'm going to talk about managing weeds in your pasture hay meadows. And, I'm still getting feedbacks on my mic, so we're just going to have to make this work. Okay, so we have annual and perennial weeds infesting our pastures and our hay meadows, and we're seeing a lot of crabgrass right now. We've had a good germination here early. If it starts raining, we'll see a lot more crabgrass in our hay meadows. And also pigweed is out and germinated in a big population again this year. And of course, horsenettle is something that we see a lot of in our pastures and our hay meadows. But this is annual that we see in wet years. We have wet years, we'll see a lot of barnyard grass and buttercup, a cool season weed. And then we have a lot of thistles too, which are biennial weeds that are present in a lot of our pastures. So a lot of different weeds infesting our pastures, and we're seeing that wet years there's an even greater population. So always the question about why we have so many weeds. Well, pigweed is a really good example of infesting our pastures and our hay meadows. It's just a tremendous seed producer. Makes over 1 billion seeds per year, and the seeds live in the soil 30 to 50 years. So seed production. There's also seed too. But, if you ever try to grab one, it sticks you in the hand. You feel it. Smooth pigweeds and your spiny ones too. But this is just a broadleaf that's very, very common in our pastures. Well, we always try to avoid things that will cause more weed problems, and that's where it's important not to overgraze our pastures and stock a lot of animals in there. Eat all of our good grass, our good forage grasses. We end up with a lot of weeds that don't have a lot of competition. Pressure. Having the grasses there and healthy keeps a lot of the weed pressure down. So it's important to do things that will ensure that that grass can handle grazing. So we rotate graze. We don't overgraze. We allow pastures to rest and recover, and that keeps the weed pressures down too. Just and watch our stocking rates. We can overstock sometimes. Our soil's extremely compacted. And weeds like Vaseygrass and Smutgrass love compacted soils. So also want to maintain fertility too in our pastures and our hay meadows. Especially with hay, we're pulling grass out of the field. We're taking nutrients. That's also very important to understand that. And so soil samples are highly important. So some of the weeds that we have too in our pastures are toxic to livestock. And in Lincoln Parish in 2018, we had a lot of cattle killed with Rezilon, and we have it every year. Cattle are killed with Rezilon. Rezilon is broadleaf. It's in the mint family. It has a square stem. I know there's some better pictures online that you could look at, but it's a highly toxic plant. So when we get into periods of the year, maybe we're in drought, this plant seems to look well in drought, and it might be the only green thing out there, and potentially cattle could eat it. So this is one you want to keep an eye on. So there are some toxic plants out in our pastures, and do these on it, but just be aware there are some toxic plants out there. I always mention Johnsongrass can be toxic too. It's a grass that's actually very nutritious, but when it gets under stress, it can also be a toxic plant. And you would never allow horses to graze. But in a hay meadow situation, to be selectively removed, and Outrider herbicide is highly effective on it. Outrider can be used in Bahia grass and Bermuda grass. It removes Johnsongrass and hay meadows especially. Normally, in a pasture, we probably just graze it out here in good grazing conditions. But we keep an eye on this. Go through a drought, or we go through a period of just frost, accumulate these toxic substances, and so the good news is we can remove it with herbicides. Just to bring you up to date on some new herbicides that are out there, you probably heard of Duracor. That's aminopyrrole paroxetine, and it's not a restricted use herbicide. You won't have to have an applicator to use it. It does not contain 2,4-D. It has pre-emergence and post-emergence activity, and a fairly low use rate. When you look at 12 to 20 ounces per acre. It's supposed to be really effective. Good activity. We're still evaluating it. And because it contains aminopyrrole, it is a clover killer. And again, we are still evaluating this herbicide. We think it's going to be a good tool for us. And sorry, I can't hear y'all at all now. So I'm just going to be presenting, and I'll turn this mic back on because I don't speak right now. Another herbicide that we're looking at is Rezilon. We've been looking at that for 3 or 4 years now. And Rezilon is going to be approved for use and I think this is going to really help you if you have hay meadows, Bermuda grass hay meadows. It's very effective on crabgrass, and we're seeing a lot of its use in crabgrass over the last few years. Getting into our Bermuda grass hay meadows, taking out the Bermuda grass. So Rezilon is also very, very effective pre-emergence on volunteer ryegrass, and be a fall application for volunteer ryegrass, and around Valentine's Day application for crabgrass and Bermuda grass. So this one's going to be available by August of 2020, August this year. So it'll be available for ryegrass control, ryegrass control. So this is going to be very, very helpful for our hay producers. We've been evaluating this one for a long time. I know I've evaluated a lot with Jason Holmes up in Union Parish and Lincoln Parish. So we have a good feeling that this herbicide is going to be very helpful for our hay producers. Pre-emergence control. Now, when it comes to spraying herbicides, I want you to be able to spray with confidence. You're not going to kill your livestock. These herbicides are very safe, used as directed, safe. Most of them have no grazing restriction. You can spray with the animals out in the pasture. Unless you're going to be slaughtering, there's usually no grazing restriction at all. And you're not going to kill your pasture either. Be accurate with your application, but you're not going to kill your pasture. Now, one herbicide to watch out for is if you have Bahia grass, you watch out for metsulfuron, because metsulfuron can be tough on Bahia grass, but otherwise, you're not going to kill your pasture. So that's a couple of the questions I get all the time. my animals and will I hurt my pasture? And you're not. But it's important to be calibrated. It's not hard. Back to grazing restrictions. Most of these herbicides, again, have no grazing restriction. You just got to be careful, make sure you don't put metsulfuron on grass. And Velpar used to have a long grazing restriction, but no longer has grazing restriction. That's Smutgrass Control. When it comes to calibration, I'm going to make these handouts available to you. It's very easy to calibrate your equipment. We want you to be accurate with your application, save you money, and a peace of mind too for putting out these herbicides accurately. You're not wasting a lot. Also, we want you to be able to identify some of the weed problems that you might see in your pasture, and when we have a handout for that too. The difficult and common weeds that we try to control in our pasture, we'll make that available too. It has the actual weed and what we recommend LSU research trials through the years. So just some current recommendations for some of the troubles that you might see in a pasture setting. Some of some things I get the most calls on, and then broomsedge. I get a lot of calls on broomsedge. And I tell you, we pretty much exhausted every herbicide labeled in pastures, trying to find a way to control broomsedge in our pastures and our hay meadows, and we haven't found a herbicide yet. Of everything that we've looked at, it's been a lot, probably 20 to 50 herbicides, 25 to 50 herbicides labeled for pastures, not labeled for pasture. And we haven't found anything that's selectively boosted in a pasture setting or a hay meadow setting. But we see this often where pastures are overgrazed or maybe the fertility is low. Sometimes the pH is low, but not always. But in research trials that we've done looking at agronomic practices, you can't fertilize it away, you can't lime it away, but we are seeing that if you can keep it clipped and improve fertility, that it does improve the base texture of the grass or grass, and we're able to actually select it out over time. Fortunately, we don't really have a herbicide right now that works, but something we are going to be evaluating is using weed wipers, glyphosate, ropewick, pipewick, weed wipers, maybe being able to wipe it out of pastures. That we know it is sensitive to glyphosate, and so it's just that at rates that we need to control broomsedge, the rates are too high for use it selectively in Bermuda. So we know the herbicide that we need is glyphosate. The way to put it out is to wipe it for the weed. So another one that's probably in our top two weed problems is smutgrass, and this is just something that we see a lot. It's native to Asia. It's spread all over South Louisiana. It's probably our number one weed problem in South Louisiana. It's kind of worked its way north, and we see pastures that are extremely compacted. We see this one a lot, and perennial. It's a tremendous seed producer that makes 45,000 seeds, but it does have that smut fungus that seems to sterilize the seed and possibly reduce some of the germination, but you still have over 1,000 seeds produced by this plant that are viable. So it's a big issue in our pastures, and seeds are dispersed by machinery, and cattle disperse it also. So the thing is, it can take over a pasture. Be careful not to overgraze. This would be stocking rates too. Make sure that you don't overstock your animals. We have a lot of clay soil. The soil gets extremely compacted. The competitive advantage goes back to the smutgrass in that kind of situation. The smutgrass loves compacted soil. Grass and Vaseygrass don't like it very well, and it's kind of like what we have on football fields. You'll see a football field walk out of all the players. It's not getting proper care. And so the way we take care of our pastures is we pull the animals off and we allow them to pasture rest. Otherwise, we're predisposing ourselves for raising and stocking many animals. A herbicide that works on smutgrass is Velpar. Velpar is a tree killer, so you get kind of careful with it. But we've also seen it fail miserably, and it's water's the key. We need rainfall to get it into the soil. If you put this out on grass and Bahia grass, it's safe on Bermuda and Bahia grass, but it can be very effective on smutgrass, but we've seen it fail get any rain, and you spray it, and you can't buy rain for 3 or 4 weeks. When control, you'll get minimal control, and you spend a ton of money, $40 plus per acre potentially. So we needed to put this one out when we're getting plenty of rain. So it is a tree killer, so you got to be very careful when you put this one out, because if it gets into the drip line of trees, you can have some serious with the uptake. Pecan trees, oak trees can be pretty sensitive. There's no grazing restriction. There used to be a 60-day grazing restriction, but there's no longer grazing restriction. You can spray with the animals out there, but it's expensive. Rainfall is the key to success. I've seen soil so compacted so that take it up very well too. So, but you've got to have rainfall to get it into the root zone of the smutgrass, because there's no leaf absorption. It is completely take. And when we've had failure, it's almost always been attributed to not getting the proper amount of rain to get into the root zone of the smutgrass. Another one that we see a lot of is Vaseygrass, and becoming more and more of a problem too up in North Louisiana. You see it a lot in hay meadows, and Vaseygrass is a Pasture. Dallas grass is a sister plant to it. It's a tall growing, clumping perennial. It's also a big seed producer and very, very invasive. Now, cattle will graze it. You can kind of graze it out over time, but in a hay meadow, currently there's no good selective option labeled controlling basic grass in a hay meadow. We have found is it is sensitive to glyphosate, but at fairly high rates of glyphosate. If you're renovating a hay meadow, you'd want to be 4 to 2 quarts per acre just to start over. We've seen that pint and a half to a quart, if you're trying to select pint and a half to a quart, it's kind of where you need to be. And you're going to really devastate your Bermuda grass though at those rates. Probably the best way to get it out right now is a weed wiper. We have one here mounted 4-wheeler, and that has been pretty effective for us. A 30 to 50% solution. We've looked at rotating ones. They seem to be some of the better ones that rotate the area context the weeds actually rotate. We've had pretty good the basic grass grows tall, just above your Bermuda grass, and or Bahia grass, and we've been able to select it out in most cases by wiping it. Not everybody has a weed wipe. We are evaluating herbicides on this particular weed, and we know in the future we're going to probably be able to better look at controlling. Right now, based on the herbicides that we have, probably wiping it is the best way to get it out of the pasture. As far as broadleaf weeds, and the good thing about broadleaf weeds are different enough from grasses. If you're growing Bermuda grass and we're growing Bahia grass, the hard thing to control is something like a Vaseygrass grass, because it's a grass. Trying to select a grass out of the grass is very difficult. But broadleaf weeds, there's a very good chance we can control most of your broadleaf, because there are herbicides that will select out without the pasture even knowing, so to speak. It can remove those broadleaf weeds, and you don't have any injury on the pasture. Taking out smutgrass or taking out basic grass, that's a hard thing to do, because you're growing grass. Taking a grass out. So give me a broadleaf any day. And horsenettle, I rarely ever go to a pasture or a hay meadow horsenettle, and that's in the Solanaceae family. So it's in the tomato family, pepper family, and all parts of the plant considered toxic, believe it or not. As far as controlling this particular plant, horsenettle, we've done numerous studies. We've probably done 10 studies looking at herbicides. And Rezilon Next is very good. My favorite one is probably Rezilon. It's very, very effective in horsenettle. Again, a broadleaf, selecting a pasture is a lot easier. Surmount in restricted areas, areas where you have surmount, fluroxapyr and Picloram. It's herbicide, but it's very, very effective on controlling horsenettle. Cimarron Max, which is Sulfuron and Weed Master, that is very, very effective. 2,4-D has not been effective for us in our trials, and Weed Master has only been marginally effective. I will point out on the Cimarron Max that you are putting out Sulfuron, so you would be able to use that in a Bahia grass pasture. So Cimarron, anytime you see the word sulfuron, think dead grass because it's tough on Bahia grass. It's safe on grass. It would be safe on corn too. So briars, I see a lot of briars mainly on fence rows. I always like to point out the difference between a dewberry and a blackberry. Although we haven't seen a big difference in control, a blackberry wants to make a shrub, and a dewberry wants to grow flat and grow and take territory. A dewberry also has a lot of hair on the stem, red hair on the stem, and as far as control though, we can control both of them. They can just be stubborn. You may have to go back to a couple of applications. Of course, cattle won't graze them, and we've seen areas where it completely flat and shades out the grass, and it's a salvage situation. But you can eventually get control of the virus, and there are key herbicides in trying to control it. We've had great results with Remedy in applications, especially on a fence row. We like Remedy a lot. We like sulfuron fence row too. MS is very good on the fence row for controlling briars. Again, metsulfuron would be tough on a hay grass pasture. You wouldn't use it out there. Cimarron Max is also very good on any kind of briar. Crossbow is good. It contains triclopyr and 2,4-D. Rezilon Max work well for some briars. We like chaparral a lot. Not a restricted use herbicide, but does contain metsulfuron, so you would be able to use that on the hay grass pasture. So we have many options for briars. It just you often have to just stay at it. Briars have probably been there for a while. They're deeply rooted, but you can control briars. Just be as stubborn as the briar. As far as timing of your application on briars, we've had good luck pretty much anytime that briar is actively growing. Probably better after the off and it's flowered and produced the fruit, but we've had luck anytime the briar is active. Once we get into a drought, you can't really get control on anything. Those leaf picking up, it's hard for those herbicides to penetrate. And so if that briar is moisture stressed, you've seen a reduction in control. When those briars are actively growing, even in the fall, if they're actively growing, if we get time rainfall actively growing, we've had really good results with these herbicides you see listed here on briars. So we know we can control briars. We just may have to go a couple of times herbicides to really. So another one that we see a lot of is dog fennel. We see this one a lot in undisturbed areas, and that's the seed source areas. You've got to be really cognizant of seed source areas like on a fence row. You see this a lot on a fence row, and that'll be providing seed for your pasture, your neighbor's pasture potentially. It's a perennial plant. Seeds are blown around by the wind. It's a really pretty stout system plant that allows it to come back every year. It's perennial. We've had good luck with Rezilon P+D. Not this, but even Remedy pretty good on dog. Cimarron Max has worked well for us. Max has worked well in research trials. And we've had luck with 2,4-D early on in the season when the dog fennel's about 6 inches tall. We've actually had good luck controlling it in a fence row setting, and pasture setting when the dog fennel is about 6 inches tall. But we always say that's about a 10-minute window because it's growing so fast. You'd have to get it out really early. For us, Rezilon P+D has probably been our best control on dog fennel. It can be tough. It's another one that's got that stout root system. With Grazing P+D, there are generics of it out there. It contains Picloram. It's a restricted use product. But the Picloram, there's a lot of root uptake on that herbicide too. And sometimes when we get into a drought, which we don't have to worry about right now, but sometimes when we've been in a drought, we've seen failures with Grazing P+D because we don't get the extra component of the root uptake. So thistles are also something that we see a lot of, and mainly they're biennial thistles, which means it takes 2 years for them to complete the life cycle. The thistle on the upper left hand is probably a 1-year-old thistle, and so it's going to take it 2 years to flower. The one on the right hand side there is a 2-year-old thistle, probably yellow thistle, common in Louisiana. The thing is, in that lower left corner, that's the wind blow the seed around. So what we like to do is try to catch it in that upper left-hand side at that old plant. A little bit easier to control at that point. The thing is, when it comes to thistles, we have herbicides that will just blow them away. I mean, just really kill them. But their hammer, their hammers on clover. And so Grazon Next, Plus D, Chaparral are all very good to get high rates. All very, very good on thistles, but they're clover killers and a big issue. You know, when you're trying to save clover. We've also doing spot trees. We're really concerned with clover, and maybe the population of thistles are not, you know, just crazy population treat. We like either Roundup treatment or 2,4-D treatment. Put a little dye in the sprayer, and 2.5 ounces per gallon are highly effective for us in anything we've ever done. The spot treatments have worked really, really well, and we minimize the damage to the clover. I tell you, it's always good to put a little dye in there because it's hard to see before it's treated when you're putting this out. We've had good luck. I always say this is a good job for a lazy team. Send them out there to spot treat, and you know what could go wrong? Peat and herbicide. So another weed that we see a lot of, especially in South Louisiana, I know up in Union, you'll see a lot of Chinese tallow trees. And the Chinese tallow tree is the #1 weed problem in wetland areas, most invasive plant. This is in our top 2 or 3 problems in South Louisiana. Tallow trees are highly invasive. You can order them as an ornamental. It's beautiful fall colors. I always tell people you plant them, and about 3 years, 4 years after you plant it, you'll have beautiful fall colors, and your neighbors will have beautiful fall colors because birds will spread those seed everywhere. And it is invasive. You know, an established plant, established tree will make 100,000 seeds, and they're extremely viable. So highly invasive plant. The thing is, though, there is a magic bullet. Magic bullet is Picloram. Anything the herbicide Picloram as one of the components is going to be very effective on tallow trees. And so Grazon P plus D, Torque, Crossbow is also very good. Triclopyr and 2,4-D. Remedy is, we really like products with Picloram. So something like a Grazon P plus D, when those trees are 3 feet tall or less, a quart of Grazon P plus D and surfactant has been highly effective for us. Remedy is also been highly effective. We even look at Remedy as a basal treatment with diesel. 1 quart of Remedy, 3 quarts of diesel makes up a gallon. You know, cheap big box sprayer, don't mind ruining. I go and spot treat some Chinese tallow trees with a basal treatment where you're treating the bark out up to waist all the way around. Has been highly effective on Chinese tallow trees. So we can kill tallow trees. The thing is, you just can't let them sit there and produce seeds because that is what's providing seed for the area, especially on a fence row setting. And we also like the hack and squirt treatment. That's this Tordon RT. It's not a restricted use herbicide, although it does contain Picloram. It contains 2,4-D. This is something you find at all your feed stores. It's a very, very effective treatment on tallow trees. I've never seen a failure when this herbicide has been used. It's a year-round treatment. Year-round. Make a hack every 3 inches of trunk diameter of a tree. So a 6-inch tree, you get a hack and make 2 hacks. And we've had good luck with this. It takes it about 60 days for it to fully work, sometimes 90 days. It's just as simple as a hack every 3 inches of trunk diameter, squirt the herbicide at the dead tree. Kills large trees, large tallow trees too. But the problem with this is on a fence line, if you had an oak tree beside it or another tallow tree for that matter, this herbicide, Picloram part, get exuded out the roots. It may get picked up by another tallow tree or a fig tree that's in the root zone of that tallow tree that you treated, or an oak tree or pecan tree. So there is that little bit of danger using it, some collateral damage. Really had good luck with this herbicide. It's about $20 or so for a quart. You can hack a lot of trees with that, a lot of tallow trees. So another one that we're seeing a lot of on fence lines, and that's the Chinese privet. I know where I grew up, often this was our fence pretty much because it will just kind of stay on your fence. and, and just be a part of your fence. But if you want to keep your fences clean, this is one right here that is fairly easy to control with the right herbicide. So we found that Remedy is not that great on it. Roundup's not that great on it. But that sulfur is the magic bullet on Chinese Privet. And we're talking like 1 to 2 ounces per 100 gallons of water, 1 ounce per 50 gallons of water. We've had great luck anywhere from May to September controlling Chinese fence row. Sulfuron, also a Mazapir, which is arsenal, is a trade name. We've had great results killing Chinese Privet on a fence row with that sulfuron. It's a very inexpensive herbicide, highly effective on Chinese Privet. And so if you want to clean up a fence row that had Chinese Privet on it, you can really do it. And growing up, if we would have cleaned up our Chinese Privet, we wouldn't have had any cows, because that's pretty much holding our cows in, keeping our fences. But you can kill Chinese Privet. That's sulfuron. So Buttercup is something that we see a lot of as well, and it's a cool season broadleaf, and makes a lot of seeds. You had it this year. Your pastures or hay meadows were a seed yellow Buttercup. You're going to have it again next year, and it germinates in October, and it starts kind of playing out when we get into May, really seeding out. April, trying to seed out, and it's an annual again. Tremendous seed producer. So we have to try to stop and stop the seed production. And it's very cheap and easy to control. It's highly sensitive to 2,4-D. The beauty of this is you can also control most of the other broadleaves that are out there, but you release white clover. Now, white clover, you won't release prescription. It can be tough on beds, but it releases established white clover. Make it a little bit of injury on the clover, but I like that January, February timing when you don't have any yellow flowers out there. We've had great success controlling hay meadows and in pastures. You can control it very easily if you have ryegrass out there. You can apply 2,4-D safely on ryegrass with no issues, no problems at all. You want to pick a warm day. 2,4-D works best on a warm day when temps are in the 60s. But don't let Buttercup persist in your pastures. We've had great results controlling Buttercup selectively, releasing the white clover, minimal damage to the white clover. And you got to break this cycle of seed production. It may take you several years of doing this too to really see that you're in control of your time, because there's a seed bank full and there's longevity for the seed. But we've had great results killing Buttercup in our pastures and hay meadows, pint per acre. So we talked a lot about fence rows, and fence rows are a seed source. Very, very important that you kind of keep your fence rows as clean as possible, because this is an area where often weeds are allowed to just grow and bloom and produce their seeds, and then the wind blows them into the field, or some other method they're able to make it into the field. So, we've seen is it's overall grand scheme of keeping your pastures clean to try to keep your fence rows clean. Remove that seed source. One of my favorite treatments has been a Roundup application. Roundup is very good on the grasses and really good on the succulent plants. Remedy is going to be very effective on briars and brush, and on trees on that fence. You can use this up in areas where there's cotton production or in 2,4-D restricted areas. It's going to be safe for your cattle, and it's just very, very effective. 2.5 ounces per gallon Remedy, 2.5 ounces per gallon of the Roundup product, glyphosate, cheap generic glyphosate. We have had great results with this. We're able to keep our fence rows clean. So that's pretty much what I have for you today, and I hopefully we'll figure out a way to take some of your questions right now. I'm going to put some volume back, see if I'm getting all this double speak every time. Let me just try it. Yeah, I'm getting that double speak. So, Ashley or Jason?
All right, thank you, sir. Yeah, we had a little bit of buffering going on.
That I can take possibly some of these questions. Maybe you can text me the questions.
Well, I have not
Call me.
seen any. I'll have Jason text them to you. I'm going to swap out my.
Y'all bear with me for a little bit while I make a call in to Jason Holmes.
That sounds good.
Hey.
Whoops. Mine's.
So I don't know that we have any. So you can't hear Ashley?
I cannot hear you.
Lee, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, y'all. We've had some technical difficulties all morning going on with the webinar.
So Jason, I'm going to turn it back on. You're going to hear.
Dr. Strahan, I think we need you to mute your microphone on the computer.
Actually, I'm hearing you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you've had some computer problems. We've had a little bit of buffering going on with it. I'm going to talk about the survey really quick and where we can find the webinar at. Lee, if you don't mind double checking the Q&A box. Jason had to jump off of his computer, and so I'll double check at the end to see if we have any questions for Dr. Strahan. But thank you again, everyone, for joining us this morning and kind of bearing with us as we've had some of these technical difficulties. We are going to post.
Ashley, we do have a question for Dr. Strahan.
Okay.
Gentleman asked, how does smutgrass get started in I guess in a pasture or hayfield?
Yeah. So how does smutgrass get started in a hayfield or pasture? Can you unmute and just repeat the question? So how does smutgrass get started in a hayfield or pasture? Just repeat the question.
So how does smutgrass get started in a hay meadow or pasture? What we have seen is over time, when you buy cows, you can bring it in that way. You can bring it in on equipment. It's working its way northward, and we're seeing it more and more up in North Louisiana. But weeds always find a way to get to a location. We can kind of predispose ourselves for this problem by overgrazing and getting the soil really compact. Just seeing that there can be some serious issues with smutgrass, but we kind of predispose ourselves for it by, maybe there's some things we can do. Maybe pull the animals off and the pasture rest a little bit. It helps the buttergrass or the hay grass become more competitive. But often it's introduced either through equipment, going from pasture to pasture with clipping or hay production, or animals can bring it in and from other areas when you buy animals. It's definitely becoming more and more of a problem up in North Louisiana, and it's a huge problem in South.
Lee, did you see any other questions on there?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if y'all still have some questions, you can get them in and I'll double check with Lee in just a minute. So we have the QR code posted here. If you don't mind, just take about 3 minutes or so to give your feedback. You can do that now. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, the survey is still up. You can still do this. So if you open the camera on your phone and you view the QR code in the camera, a little banner comes up at the top and it will send you to Microsoft Forms, and you can go through and complete that survey. Again, takes maybe 3 minutes to do that. These surveys are very helpful for us to be able to continue our Beef Brunch webinars, as well as our news updates, and just continue to go on with this series. So we are going to post this webinar in the near future, probably Thursday sometime, to the lsuagcenter.com/beef brunch. Is our website, or our channel on YouTube, which is LSU Ag Center-Livestock. Our next Beef Brunch will be at 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday, July 14th. We will have Dr. Ed Twidwell discussing selection and preparation of cool season forages. Excuse me. We will have a flyer with all the information on how to access that, as that event approaches. And with that, Lee, do we have any other questions that have popped up?
No, the gentleman that asked the question about smutgrass made the comment that 23 years ago when he bought his farm, he had no smutgrass in his pastures, and now it's beginning to take over other hay fields. I believe he's in Pike County, Mississippi. But his second question was, is overgrazing the primary cause in Dr. Strahan's opinion, or is it due to cattle coming in or equipment? So I guess what's the primary cause of smutgrass intrusion?
Dr. Strahan, are you still there to answer that for us?
I'm here. I'm still hearing the question again from Leaf Fall. I can hear him talking. I'm getting a delay. That's the problem. So I think the question was, why do we have so much smutgrass on a pasture that was bought 23 years ago? Is that right?
Yeah. I think the question is, what do you feel is the primary cause of it? I know we listed several methods, several modes.
Okay, what's the primary?
Yeah, what do you think would be the primary?
I'm getting so much feedback here. Well, we think the primary cause is just introduction from hay equipment and mowing equipment, more than likely. I think that's probably the primary method, is just contaminated equipment moving from field to field. We've just seen over time, there's so much seed production. When you got a plant that produces 45,000 seeds, and even though we're seeing that smut fungus is attacking the germination of those seeds, you're still getting 1,300 to 1,500 viable seeds produced per plant. It doesn't take a lot. It takes one or two plants producing seeds. It's just exponential. It's kind of like they're talking about how the COVID spread from person to person. It's just so much seed production occurring from this plant that it only takes one growing on a fence row or a barnyard area that gets transferred to a field, and over 5 years the field can be cut in a short amount of time. So I know I can't hear your feedback right now on this, but that's kind of where I am. I think it's brought in by equipment more than likely, and it only takes one or two germinated seeds into producing seeds. There's thousands upon thousands of smutgrass plants.
All right, thank you. And if Dr. Strahan doesn't mind, we'll put his email and contact information down in the video description when we post this onto YouTube and onto our website. So if you have any other questions, we'll be able to get those to him. And with that, if you have any other questions regarding our series, our Beef Brunch educational series, you can reach out to me. I'll put my contact information below the video as well, but my email is akedwards@agcenter.lsu.edu. I want to thank Dr. Strahan again for his time today, and thank you all for joining us.